Hi there, we are on chapter 5 of Rabbit Hill, and we've got this cool picture on there right now. Porky sits tight. The next few days saw great doings on the hill. In fact, there was so much going on that Father was fairly worn out keeping an eye on things. The vegetable garden was plowed, harrowed, and raked. It was a good, generous garden, double its former size, and to everyone's relief, there was no fence around it. The flower beds had been cultivated and fertilized, all the lawns dug up, raked and rolled, ready for reseeding. Now the north field was being plowed. Tim McGrath, riding his roaring tractor, whistled happily as he watched the brown earth roll from the plowshare in clean, straight furrows. From the door of Porky's home, Porky and Father watched the proceedings approvingly. As the tractor ceased its roaring momentarily, Louis Kernstock, rebuilding a stone wall, called to Tim, "What are they going to plant there, Tim?" "Buckwheat," he replied. "Buckwheat now, later turn it under and plant clover and timothy." "Did you hear that?" Porky nudged Father gleefully. "Buckwheat. Why, I ain't had myself into a good field of buckwheat and I don't know when. Oh my, oh my." "You haven't heard any mention of bluegrass, have you?" asked Father hopefully. "No, I ain't," said Porky, "but I can do with buckwheat, not having no fancy Kentucky stomach. Reckon your old lady will be glad to hear about this too. Them little buckwheat cakes she used to make was mighty fine. Just think," he sighed ecstatically, "a whole field of buckwheat, and right in my front yard, as you might say." "Mention of your front yard reminds me, Porky," Father began, "that I must talk seriously with you concerning the dangers inherent in your present location. Should the newcomers—" Porky interrupted him rudely. "If all them words mean them that you're starting in again to talk about my moving, you might as well save your wind. I ain't a-gonna do it." He hunched his shoulders stubbornly. "I just ain't a-gonna do it, and that's that. There ain't a finer burrow nowheres on this hill. I've worked hard on this place, and I ain't a-gonna do it." "As I was saying," Father continued, "should the newcomers introduce dogs to our midst, your situation here immediately adjacent to the house would be perilous in the extreme." "Can take care of myself," Porky muttered. "No one desires to cast reflections on your personal courage, Porky, nor on your ability to fend for yourself." Father was becoming slightly impatient now. "But your stubborn and unreasonable attitude is causing your friends a great deal of pain. I have talked the matter over with Buck and the Gray Fox, and we are firmly resolved that should there be dogs, and you still persist in your refusal to listen to reason, we shall, much as we might regret it, be reduced to the use of force to remove you bodily to a safer location. We have also talked it over with Phooey, who is in great and perfect agreement with us. He can, as you know, render your home unfit for habitation in a very few moments, and is fully prepared to do so should it become necessary." Here's a picture here. Having delivered this ultimatum, Father stalked away, but Porky merely humped his shoulders more stubbornly and continued to mutter, "Ain't a-gonna do it, ain't a-gonna do it." Father found Phooey and the Gray Fox inspecting the newly repaired chicken house and run. The run was built out of stout wire, but the Gray Fox had already chosen and marked the spot where he planned to tunnel under it. Phooey, who preferred the younger chicks, was contemplating digging under the coop itself. "A nice tender one now and then is fine," he was saying, "but I wouldn't be bothering with them if I was sure what the garbage situation's going to be. What I hope is they ain't going to have one of them newfangled garbage cans that buried in the ground, them ones with heavy iron lids. Why, they're downright dangerous, oughtn't to be allowed. Had a cousin over there to Charcoal Hill got caught in one of them, got it open all right and was enjoying himself when kerbam! Down came the lid, and there he was. In there all night. He sure had enough of garbage. Time the maid came out next morning. She got enough of skunk, too, when she opened up that lid." He chuckled. "Left that day, she did. Served them folks right, having any such dangerous contraption." "Perhaps they will dig a pit and bury it," Father suggested. "Don't hold with that neither," Phooey answered. "A plumb waste, that is, mixing nice fresh garbage with old stale garbage, and tin cans and dirt and all. No, sir, what I like to see is a good old-fashioned garbage can with nice loose-fitting lid, and if these folks is thoughtful, considerate acting folks, that's the kind of can they'll have." Father found the subject a bit distasteful, so he continued his stroll and soon came across Willie Fieldmouse and his friend Mole. "Good evening, William," said Father. "I trust that all your friends and relatives succeeded in removing their mousehold goods from the north field before the plowing begins?" "Yes, indeed, sir. Thank you kindly," answered Willie politely, "and they are all very grateful to you for warning them in time." Not at all," replied Father. "I merely chanced to overhear Mr. McGrath remark that it was starting the next day, and thus enabled to spread the word. I only wish that certain other people were as quick to respond to suggestions made for their own good." "You mean Porky?" asked Willie. "Ain't he that stubborn old codger?" Father regarded Willie severely. "Mr. Porky, William, is one of the very oldest and most highly regarded members of our community, and as such he's entitled to a certain amount of respect from flippant young people." "Yes, sir," said Willie. "Mole," Father went on, surveying the smoothly raked front lawn, "this is a very beautiful piece of gardening. of grading. You should enjoy some splendid burrowing here. The mole picked up a bit of soil and crumpled it in his paw. A little soft yet for good digging, he said, and then all the grubs are scattered and scared away. But in 2 to 3 weeks from now, when the young grass gets a good start and the grubs gather again, nothing they love like good tender grass roots, then I'm a-going to have myself some real hunting. At this moment, little Georgie galloped up, fairly bursting with news. "Coming tomorrow, Pa," he shouted. "Coming tomorrow. I just heard Louis Kuhnstock telling Tim McGrath they ought to get those holes in the driveway filled up on account of the moving vans are coming tomorrow. The folks, too, coming tomorrow." "Splendid," said Father. At last we shall be enabled to ascertain the character and disposition of our new neighbors and learn what canine or feline hazards may accompany them. By the way, Georgie, do not mention moving vans in your mother's presence. You remember little Throckmorton?" Little Georgie did. Very well. For Throckmorton had been one of Mother's favorite grandchildren. A moving van had been the cause of his taking off, and Mother had an unreasoning terror of them ever since. The news, of course, spread like wildfire. All that evening, the burrow was filled with chatter and speculation and the coming and going of callers. Father's caution about the mention of vans was futile, for the moment Mother learned that the arrival of the new folks was imminent, she cried, "Moving vans!" and burst into tears. She threw her apron over her head and wept for some time, demanding that little Georgie be confined to the burrow on the morrow until all the danger was past. "Now, Molly, don't take on so," consoled Uncle Aldous, that's what it is. "Ain't no sense to it. Why, with that bumpity-twistity driveway full of holes like it is, couldn't no ding-blasted moving van make speed enough to danger a box turtle. Besides, I'll be there, and what I don't know about moving vans and folks and dogs and cats, nobody don't know." Mother vowed that she would not stir from the burrow the entire day, but Uncle Aldous poked Father in the ribs. "Don't worry," he chuckled. "She'll be out there right along the rest of us, a-lookin' and a-watchin'. I know about women, too." So Chapter 6 is entitled Moving Vans. The great day dawned and the moving vans came. They creaked and they swayed and they rumbled up the driveway, their drivers completely unaware that they were being watched by dozens of pairs of small, bright eyes. In bayberry clumps, in thickets and long grass, all the little animals were gathered to inspect the new arrivals. The gray fox and the red buck had come to the edge of the pine wood, where they stood motionless as statues, except when the buck's great ears turned this way and that to gather in each errant sound. Even Mother had ventured forth once the vans had come to rest, and now sat between Father and Uncle Aldous, keeping a firm grip on little George's left ear. For the animals, there was a great interest in seeing the furniture unloaded, for it afforded an opportunity to judge the character of the new folks by their possessions. Father noted approvingly the rich sheen of many pieces of old mahogany. "Those," he whispered to Mother, "very clearly indicate quality folks. I've not seen anything of that sort since I left the bluegrass." He was interrupted by Phooey's joyful wiggling. A large old-fashioned garbage can without any lid at all had just been pulled out behind the garage. "Now that's what I call real folks," Phooey gloated. "And right there under the grape arbor. I can have dinner and dessert right in that one place." Uncle Aldous was watching with sharp eye the various tools and garden implements that were going into the tool house. "Ain't seen no traps nor spring guns yet," he admitted. "There's lots of cans and jugs, though. Maybe poisons, and they may not. Can't tell yet." Louis Kuhnstock and Tim McGrath had both found occasion to putter around near the house, so they too could observe and judge. "Look like nice folks things," said Louis. "Yes," answered Tim, "real nice. There's an awful lot of books, though. Don't hold much with that. People that read books much seem to be queer-like. Grandpa always said readin' rots the mind. Don't know but what he was right." "Oh, I don't know," Louis observed. "I knew a feller once read books a lot, and he was real nice. Died a couple of years ago." There's a picture of the bunnies with the book. The moving van was discharged. Vans discharged their loads and creaked away down the drive, but the animals never stirred. Their concern really was the folks. It was mid-afternoon before their patience was finally rewarded by the sight of a car coming up the drive. It was a fairly old car, bulging with baggage. A stir of excitement swept through the watching animals, and every eye was fixed on the occupants. The man got out first. He was smoking a pipe, and Uncle Aldous sniffed the air approvingly. "Now there's something I like," he said quietly to Father. "I like a man as smokes a pipe. Gives you some warning. You take some of these fellers now, they'll come a-walking through the field when you're maybe taking a nap and almost step on your ding-blasted back before you know they're coming. But you take a feller smoking a pipe, especially a good strong one like that, why, you know he's coming half a mile away. Yes, sir, I like pipes." Father nodded agreement, but his eyes were fixed on the lady. She had lifted a large basket from the car and was now opening the lid. Mother caught her breath, and a shiver passed through all the field mice as an enormous tiger-striped gray cat stepped forth. He stretched his front legs and he stretched his hind legs, and then with slow and dignified pace stalked up the front doorsteps and began to take a bath. He bathed thoroughly, even spreading out his paws and licking well between the toes. Then he settled down in the sunshine and went to sleep. The field mice were chattering and whispering their fright. Mother seemed about to faint, but Uncle Aldous, whose practiced eye had noted many things, soon stilled their fears. old, he pronounced. Older than all get out. Didn't you notice how stiff-like he walked? And them teeth, didn't you see him when he yawned? Nothing but old rounded stumps. Shucks, he couldn't danger nobody. I'd just as soon walk up and kick him in the face. Will too, one of these days. Their attention now returned to the car, which was quivering and creaking strangely. 2 or 3 bundles fell out, then a whole shower of them, as a rather stout and flushed woman heaved herself out of the rear door. Well, Sophronia, here's our new home. Isn't it going to be lovely? The lady said brightly. Sophronia looked rather doubtful, and lugging 2 bulging suitcases, made her way toward the kitchen door. Phooey slapped Father on the back gleefully. Will there be garbage? Will there? Oh my, I've never seen one that shape and size that didn't get out the elegantness garbage. Lots of it, too. Chicken wings, duck's back, ham bones, and cooked to a turn. So this was a rather large lady, so he's saying she'll like to eat a lot of food. Folks can be splendid cooks, Father admitted, and as a rule extremely generous and understanding of our needs and customs. Very rare up here, but down in the bluegrass country where— Oh, you and your bluegrass, interrupted Phooey. Stow your gab and keep your eyes open, said Uncle Inalda sharply. See if they unload any traps or spring guns and poison rifles, shotgun snares, nets, any of them things. They watched until every last bag and bundle had been unloaded and taken within. They watched until the late afternoon shadow spread over the cat, saw him rise stiffly, stretch, and pace around to the kitchen door. Then they scattered to their separate homes, talking over the events of the day as they went. On the whole, everyone felt quite satisfied. There had been no signs of traps, spring guns, or the other lethal weapons. The cat was obviously harmless, and there were no dogs. As night settled down, it was pleasant to see lights in the big house again, to see people stirring and hear the cheery clatter of dishes from the kitchen. The odor of hickory smoke was pleasant on the air. Little Georgie, passing close to the house, could hear a log fire crackling in the living room, and happily he hummed, "New folks is come, oh my! New folks is come, oh my!" And we'll stop before we start on number 7. Reading rots the mind. Not true.